You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 29. Today's episode is another listener's question of the week. Today, we're going to address the question, how do you know when your idea, project, or business has wings to fly or it's ready to call it quits? So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. All right, hello everybody. James Wedmore here.
Phoebe Mroczek here.
And this is another edition of our brand new segment, our listener question of the week. So, Phoebe, how you doing?
I'm great, James. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We'll get into the question in just a moment because I think it's a great question. You know, it's been a few weeks now since we've been doing, or like maybe the second or third week since we've been doing 2 episodes a week. I'm liking it. I'm liking how it's going.
I love it. And it seems like the reaction from our listeners has been pretty good. People like the 2 episodes.
I think my favorite thing, and so I just want to thank everyone listening, is, you know, something that I don't get on my YouTube channel nearly as much as we get on the podcast, is it's the B word. I get all these people saying, James or Phoebe, guys, I just binge watched or binge listened to your podcast. Mm-hmm. And that is so cool. That's kind of one of the things we love about the podcast. And I remember that, you know, even though I go to YouTube myself for tutorials and training videos all the time, right? Like, you know, for my wedding, this is so sad, people laugh at me, but I needed to remember like how to tie a tie. So we were on YouTube, like it was hilarious, like 4 guys huddled around an iPhone, like trying to figure it out. It was so embarrassing, you know, and you can't get that on a podcast. But for me, you know, going back to why I started this podcast and approached Phoebe and said, we got to do this together, was I was looking for something to feed the mind and the soul while I was walking, you know, while I would go for a walk or while I would just kind of recharge. And I hope that's how others are listening to this. I mean, I think it would be weird if you're listening to this while you're checking email or hanging out on Facebook, you know, and we did the episode with Derek Halpern on walking. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've listened to podcasts where they talk about very technical things like, you know, add this pixel to your Facebook page and retarget here. And it's like, wait a second, I want to go run and like actually do this, you know, and it's not best for walking. So I think that was one of the intentions, is like, could this be your hour of power? Could this be the time where you're going for a walk or you're, you know, at the gym or just kind of turning the brain off otherwise, you know, not in work mode, and using this to kind of get you to a good place?
Totally. I personally listen to our podcast when I'm on my walks. And although it's a little difficult to listen to myself talking, I always cringe. I'm like, I shouldn't have said that.
No way.
That sounded really stupid.
We get so much good feedback from
Exactly. And that's what I love, like having the listener question of the week, because we get to see what people want to hear about. And it's so interesting to see some of the people are just leaving comments about how great the podcast is, which is always really nice. But then we also have so many different types of questions. Some people going back to like technical business stuff to like, hey, I want you to fly off the handle and talk about this. And it's really out there, but keep it going. I love seeing what is actually coming through.
Absolutely. Well, so, you know, let's go ahead and get into this week's question. I really liked it. So, Phoebe?
Yep. So this one is from Leanne Oten from BC, Canada. And she says, hi, James and Phoebe. My question relates to your philosophy in that we have to trust our path, intuition, and the universe in life and business. Our spiritual growth is always connected to my business growth. My challenge is that I've struggled for 5 years to make my business a financial success. This year, I've put a lot of effort, energy, and money, including debt, into up-leveling and growing my business online. My question, how do you know when the universe is telling you to stop, or when the challenges are presented as a message to keep going? Some days I think I'm supposed to give up, that maybe this isn't for me, that the universe is saying, good gosh, when are you going to give this up? But my passion and love for teaching what I do and knowing I'm good at what I do according to my clients' feedback and results keeps me going. Any advice for knowing when to quit or when to keep going for entrepreneurs, or how to know if we need to change direction? I adore your podcast, one of my ultimate favorites. I look forward to listening to every episode on my walks. Keep it coming. Gratitude, Leanne Oten.
This is a great question. It's a great question because I think it's one of the most common questions I hear anytime at an event and there's a speaker on a panel. This is, and it's about business, marketing, entrepreneurship. It's the number one question, especially at that startup phase, or, Leanne's been doing this for 5 years, so she's not really at the startup phase, but you haven't really seen that takeoff explosion yet. And that's the question is, how do I know if my idea is any good or not? So I think today we're going to kind of play around with this a bit and see if maybe we can have a breakthrough for you. Maybe there's some insights, some ahas for those of you who feel like, I really need to know if what I'm doing is the right thing. Okay. So the first thing I want to do, the first sentence of Leanne's question says that in relation to our philosophy, that you have to trust your path, your intuition in the universe. And I do want to just correct you, make sure you don't have to do anything. I think that's the beauty in a lot of this, is that it's there to help you. It's there to guide you, but there's no rule. There's no, this is the only way and it's bad if you don't. Okay. And I think that's a really important distinction. And all of this it's just our theories based on our own personal experiences and education that I've had, the books that I've read over the years, and the results I've had from putting that into practice. But you don't have to do this. You don't have to do any of this. They're just suggestions, right? So let's look into this question. First of all, to address it head on, I believe, based on, my theories and my beliefs, that this thing called the universe is never going to tell you to stop. Like, I don't think it's there to say, don't do this, stop it, don't follow your dreams. I just can't buy that. But the other theory that I have, it's a belief for me. And, a lot of the books that I've read from spiritual teachers who teach things like law of attraction and all that type of stuff, I find truth in their message in this as well, is that when you have a desire, when you have a want, and it comes from within. It's not someone telling you, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. Oh, okay, I need to be doing this. No, but you want something. Where did that desire come from? Who knows? Myriad of places. But it came from you. You made a decision that this is what you want. My belief is that once you have that desire, it is a possible reality in your future. Okay? Does that make sense, first of all, Phoebe?
Yeah, I'm getting it.
So, if you want, you said you wanted an awesome apartment in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's the universe. This thing out there isn't saying, no, sorry.
Yeah.
Stop it. No, that you're not good enough for that. You're not good enough for San Francisco. You're not good enough for an apartment there. Okay. So just stop it. And so I believe you're approaching this from a place of uncertainty, fear, or worry that that's what's going on. Okay. So what I always like to do, I've talked about this on previous podcasts. I've talked about this with Phoebe. I do this myself all the time, is whenever, I'm not getting what I want, or something's not just working right, it's kind of showing up as frustration or a lot of pushing and struggling and just, not getting what I want, is that I stop, I take a step back, and I just get really clear on what I want. So, Leanne, I'll ask you, what do you want? What do you want? And the trick here is to really blur it, because a lot of people don't know what they want, to be honest with you, right?
You mean specifically know what they want?
They say they don't know what they want.
Right.
I mean, I believe they do. I just think that you ask that question and people say, I don't know, right? And that can come from a lot of reasons. Maybe they're too afraid to claim or declare what it is that they want. Because what happens if you don't get what you want? Well, that'll be embarrassing, right? So what do you want? And the easiest way to answer that is say, well, what's the essence of what you want? Okay. And so you're pushing and struggling to get this, because I'm just looking at your question is you put this effort and this energy, and now you've put yourself into debt in order to grow this business online. And say, okay, so what do you want? I want to grow this business online. No. You want to do that because someone told you that will get you something that you decided that's what you want. So what do you want? What's the essence? And maybe it's something, and I don't have you have this conversation here in front of me, but maybe it's something like, well, to be honest with you, I want to work for myself. I don't want to feel the constraints of being told what to do, going to work at a certain time and getting a paycheck. I want to work when I want to work. I want freedom. I want to be able to, and it goes on and on. Okay, so that's what you want. And I believe when you get clarity on that, getting that, the universe will do the opposite of getting you to stop from getting that. They will give you the most direct path to getting that. And what it really takes from you is an absolute feeling, knowing, being, resonating of trust, of knowing and expecting beyond believing. Believing is like, yeah, I believe that, but just absolute knowing that the universe wants that for you, that that is coming towards you, that that is inevitable, what you want, and that it's you that's actually saying stop, not this thing we call the universe, that you are the only thing that could possibly be the thing that's getting in your way. Now, even just sharing that becomes a breakdown in and of its own, right? Because it's good because it's like, okay, great, you're in the driver's seat, okay? You're in control. However, a lot of people say like, they start going into shame and a negative spiral from that. Like, oh, great, what have I done? Or what am I doing wrong? And why can't I figure this out? And they beat themselves up. So the end of the day, where I like to play in is blur the essence of what we want, what really matters to you. And then have an absolute trust that that is coming towards you.
Well, so James, one thing that I remember, we had a conversation once, and I remember you asked me, what do you want? And I kept saying, I don't know. And the more that we went down that process, I just remember you kept being like, why? Why do you want that? And then we just kept getting further and further along. And that was something I think in the blurring process that really helped me get to the essence of what I want. So how I actually wanted to feel rather than the specific either business or partnership or friendship or lifestyle that I actually wanted. And it got down to like, okay, this is how I want to feel. So now looking at that and being, stepping into that place, trusting in that, all the other pieces are going to fall into place.
And not only that, but that you can feel that now. You don't have to wait until all these other, things are perfect and aligned and this business is making a certain amount of money and you've got a certain amount of clients and there's a certain amount of money in the bank account until you can have that. Because if you're denying yourself that feeling and that experience now, you're also denying that thing that you believe is going to be giving it to you. Oh, and that's huge for those people who picked that up. Okay, but here's the other thing, is that even when we identify what it is we want, we have a very narrow focus. It's humans, okay? We all do this. We get a little too attached to how that's supposed to show up, okay? We identify the desire. If you kind of went through that little exercise, like, what's the essence of it? You get clear. Then we believe that we know or that we have to figure out what's the path to get there. And so just like we blurred the desire a bit. Well, what's the essence of it? What's the feeling of it, right? What's the theme? We also want to be able to blur the path to how that's supposed to show up, okay? So when we get a little too fixated on it's supposed to be like this and it's supposed to do like that, you can be, I've given this analogy before, the bumblebee that's trapped inside the home, banging its head against the glass. And just no matter how hard it works, how much effort, energy, and money it puts at trying to break through that glass, it's never going to happen. But the moment that it stops just for a second and backs up a foot or two and realizes, oh, that next window, like a foot over to the right, is wide open, there's that path. And I believe that the universe is never saying, stop it, I'm not going to let you through this glass. The universe is just sitting there saying, hey, I'm open over here. I'm ready for you when you want to stop doing this and come through this open window.
I have something that happened to me right when I was leaving Berlin. I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the podcast, but I originally moved to San Diego. Do you remember that? I was like, yeah, I'm going to move to San Diego. I really want like a great place in California. And that's kind of what I put out there. And I thought it was supposed to look like San Diego. And I was so fixated on that when I got there and realized maybe this wasn't the place for me, I had a huge breakdown around that because that wasn't how this was supposed to go. I kept saying, well, but I'm supposed to live here. And I just wasn't meeting the right people. I wasn't getting the right vibe. And the second that I decided to kind of put it out there that like, all right, well, maybe it's just not supposed to look like San Diego. Maybe it's supposed to be somewhere else. And then I got to San Francisco and was like, yes, immediately. I knew this was the place that I wanted to live. So I know that I certainly had a big breakdown around that because I was like, what is going on here? This is supposed to be my place. And so I can see, when we're talking about not getting too attached to it, that for me was a really personal example of how I just had to let go and just trust that I'm going to find a really great place and really make a home for myself somewhere on the West Coast in the US.
Yeah, and it's a great example because things started happening, right? You got to San Diego and you didn't feel happy there. You didn't feel at home. You didn't resonate with the people there. You weren't enjoying yourself. And so you have a choice in that moment right? So you kind of chose to say, and neither one is right or wrong. It's just the choices that we decide to put on, the meanings we decide to give the events that happen to our lives, right? Because that's what we do. We put meaning to everything. And so you could have gone, there's something wrong with me, and I need to figure out how to make San Diego work. Mm-hmm. And you could have stayed there for years and just banged your head against the glass or jammed the square peg into the round hole and said, I'm going to make San Diego work for me. I'm going to keep trying and looking. Or you just said, maybe there's a better place for me. And you found it. Mm-hmm. You know, neither one is right or wrong, but one to me sounds like it's got a lot more frustration and push than the other one. And I think the lesson here, the message here is like, we can kind of ease up a bit. We can kind of take a bigger step back and try and look at a bigger picture and say that, okay, at the end of the day, what Phoebe wanted was what? She wanted, you know, all these qualities of a great place to live with great people to meet, that's, you know, a vibrant, energetic city that's full of life. Well, there's a tons of cities like that, but how is she supposed to know instantly, oh yes, it's this city, and no to all the others? Like, how do you know that until you start experiencing it, you know? Like, how do you know what food's going to taste the best? What's going to be your favorite meal until you start trying them, you know? And that's what we kind of want to suggest here. So identify what you want. What do you want? Because that's what's important to you. That's what you're yearning for. That's where your desire is. So get clear on that and then blur it a little bit. Well, what's the theme? What's the energy behind it? What's the emotion, the feeling? What am I really after? What's the essence? And then here, Leanne, I'm going to ask you this. Once you get clear on that, you want to ask yourself, do I believe I can have this? Do I feel worthy of having this? Do I deserve this? Because if we want to talk about this thing called the universe, I believe that this universe thing, right, is saying, yes, you deserve it. Here it is. You asked, it is given. But it's like someone's at your front door knocking and they've got a gift, like coolest gift in the world. And they're trying to give you a gift. They're trying to give you this present and you're ignoring the knocking or you're not opening the door. Maybe you're just not unlocking it, right? Maybe you just don't hear the knock, okay? And it could be because we're saying, no, I don't deserve this gift. I'm not worthy of this gift. I'm not ready for this gift. Even you go, but James, I'm trying and I'm putting all this energy and I'm putting all this, I don't know until we have a deeper conversation, but that might be for someone what is going on here. And so it's a great opportunity to just ask yourself those questions. Do I feel like I truly deserve this? Do I feel worthy of this? Starting a business, running a business is scary. It's different. It's full of uncertainty. It's full of risk. And it goes against the grain of everything that we were taught our entire lives. Did you know that? I mean, we are trained to be employees. We are trained to raise your hand, fall in line, do what you're told, follow directions. That is not what being an entrepreneur is about. And so a lot of this is like we just have to unlearn 90% of what we learned in traditional public education. So, you know, go easy on yourself a little bit here, okay? But I really want to encourage you to stay open to getting results or the path to get those results being something that you hadn't even noticed before, right? Because I don't believe that this thing called the universe, because I'm just using the universe because you asked it in your question, Leanne, but is that it's trying to tell you, stop it. No, just give up on your dreams. Not at all. But it might be sitting there saying, hey, when you're ready, I've got an easier, more effective way. When you're ready. No rush. I'm not going anywhere. But we've got to be able to say, hold on, let's take a step back for a second. Is this really the best way for me? So to give, you know, kind of an example, a little bit more context in this, is that I've had a desire to run my own business and be my own boss for as long as I can remember. You know, growing up with lemonade stands and selling golf balls to golfers on the golf course and everything else you can think of. I've done it all. I had an experience where I realized, oh my gosh, you can sell stuff on the internet. I can build an online business. That's what I want to do. And that was in 2007. I created an online training course called Bartend for Profit. And at the end of the day, my desire wasn't to build a multi-million-dollar online bartending school. I didn't really know what my desire was, but what got me excited was running my own business, working my own hours, building something from my computer, doing what I want, and being in control, being in the driver's seat. And I started that. I started selling courses, and I think I never made more than $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And for a while, that was a breakdown. I was like, I'm trying to make more. I'm trying to build this even bigger, and I couldn't. And I remember softening it a bit and being like, well, there's other stuff out there. There's other opportunities. And that led to people saying, wow, we see all the stuff that you're building. You do a lot of cool stuff with video. How are you making these videos? So I started creating videos for clients. And that only made me so much money. And I was like, man, I'm working full time just making these videos for people, and it's capping I have no more time left in the day. That was a breakdown for a while. Then all of a sudden I got the idea, wait a second, I could just teach people through online training how to make videos. And it went from there to there to and it just progressed. I call this the leapfrog effect, right? Whatever you're doing right now could just be one step that leads to the next thing. And so the point of that story is that when I couldn't get past 5 to 10 sales a month for my bartending course, and that was a breakdown for me. If I was given advice, whether it was from me or someone else, just give up and get a job. I can't imagine where I would be right now. I couldn't imagine giving up on that, because I wouldn't have just been giving up on a bartending business or an online bartending school. I would have been giving up everything that I've created from that point. That has nothing to do with bartending. That has nothing to do with that business. But within that business laid the groundwork, the seeds for the next thing that awaited me. And that next thing gave me what I ultimately desired from the get-go 8 years ago. It's the same freaking desire. That's the hilarious thing. I look back, remember who that kid was, and I had the same desire then that I do now. It's an excited passion for creating my own thing that's an expression of my own creativity. It's based around my teaching and sharing of content and knowledge that gives me the chance to work when I want, where I want. I mean, that same desire exists in me. And to me, up until like a year ago, it was teaching video and YouTube. And now it's like this stuff. It's always changing. And I'm learning and practicing to be more flexible and open and detached from how it needs to show up. So does that make sense, Phoebe?
It does. I have one question for you, going back a little bit when you're talking about the feeling worthy of having this and asking those questions of, do I deserve this? What happens if you really dig deep and you figure out, and the answer to that question is, no, I don't feel worthy, or no, I'm not sure I deserve this. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's another podcast. It really is. And I mean, we can't go that deep into it because, I mean, that is a whole nother episode because I've been there. Mm-hmm. That was a huge thing for me of just not feeling worthy of, and I didn't believe it. I'm like, no, that's, But then you really start to, oh my gosh, I really don't feel like I'm deserving of this, like I'm worthy of this. And that's where I'd find myself working so long. And it was like, oh, it's because I'm trying to justify the money I'm making and put myself through all this, like, oh, look how hard I'm working. And I was like, wow, so it's an entire episode in and of itself. And to really dive deep, because it's a belief that we have that isn't true. It's just a belief. Belief is just a thought you keep thinking until you continue to find evidence of it everywhere you go and you make it a fact, and it's not. And you see how it limits you. And at the end of the day, the short answer is that you need to replace it with a more empowering belief. That's not easy. That's not easy, because if that can shatter your world. If your whole life you believe this one thing and all of a sudden, well, you're supposed to replace that. But for me, getting into this stuff, talking about energy and law of attraction, if you want to call it spirituality, you want to call it the woo-woo stuff, one of the core tenets I just loved and latched onto was that, if you have a beating heart, if you have a pulse, you are worthy, period. There is no question about it. That no amount of work or effort makes in the world, output or energy, makes you a more worthy human than somebody else. To me, I resonate with that. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you go around attacking everybody that makes more money than you, that's more successful. Who dare? And I've seen people do this all the time. Like, how dare you? You don't deserve this. And like, how dare you charge that type? And it's just like, they can charge what they want. They can do what they want. And to really like, we're going off a little tangent here, but to like, man, you know how awesome it is when you go around and celebrate everybody else who's successful, even if you're not, and just say, hey, thank you for being another indicator of what's possible. Thank you for being more proof in my life that this works. Thank you. Oh my gosh. And thank you. instead of going, oh, look at this person. They're younger. They're not as educated as me. They haven't been in business as long. Look at all that money, and trying to burn them down and take them down. You go, wait a second. Here's someone who's younger than me. Here's someone who doesn't have as much experience or education as me, and they're making this work. Oh my gosh. Thank you. This is awesome. More proof that I can do this. And, that takes discipline, by the way, because the ego really just wants to push everybody down that doesn't make you feel good and feel right so that they can be wrong. It's a discipline, but, give it a shot because they are worthy and so are you. And that's coming from an abundance mindset. So to wrap this up, Leanne, it's a fantastic question. And we really thank you for asking it. And I hope it's giving you clarity. I hope there's been an insight for you, for others listening. My final advice is that once you know what it is that you want and you have absolute trust that you can have what you desire, the goal is to just step into it fully, 100%, with absolute confidence and conviction. Because as I read your question and I look over it one last time, the energy that you're projecting into this, at least into your question, is that of hesitation and uncertainty and a lack of faith. Because you're literally coming to this from a, I don't know if this is what is my right path. I don't know if I'm supposed to stop and give up. And that is an indicator of uncertainty, of a lack of conviction. And who knows if it's the right path? You will not know until you do it. And if you're going to do it, you might as well go all in. Just all in, 100%, absolute faith and trust. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, you will have a result. Guaranteed, you will have a result. If you do it, if you go into this, whatever this is, 100%, you will have a result. Now, it might not be a desired result. It might not be the result you're looking for. But from that result, you will have a lesson. You will have an experience. You will have something that you can use to take you one step closer to what you want. It might be, this is not the right way to get the desires that I want in my life, so I'm going to try this. That's fine. That's life. If it was all instant, if you started a business yesterday and you made $1 million today and it was all that easy, life would become pretty boring pretty quickly. It is a process, and it is about trusting yourself. And there will be risks and there will be challenges. But if there were none of that, it would be so boring, right? The analogy that I love sharing is if you play tennis, if you're a really good tennis player and you're playing tennis with a 7-year-old and you just kick their butt, they can't even hit the ball back. How much longer are you going to be enjoying that game? There has to be a little bit of challenge. And when you're an entrepreneur, you're up to big things. You're up to things that you've never done before. Chances are no one's ever done before. It's going to be a challenge, but that's what makes this fun. Some people say, easy for you to say. Well, you get to choose whether you make it fun or it becomes a big breakdown and upset for you. So, Phoebe, final words.
The only final word I have is when you're talking about trusting that it's going to happen, my next thing would just be get really excited about it.
Yeah.
And that's something I got from my sister is like, make a decision and get psyched about it. And I love that because I always, if I do make a decision, I'm like, right, well, I can worry about if this was the right thing. And, going back to Leanne's question, like she says, she knows that she has this passion and love for teaching and knowing what she's good at and all that. Well, get excited about that. Like there's a little hesitation, as you were mentioning in her question, but the second she just kind of lets go and gets excited about it, it's definitely going to happen for her. So I'm excited.
I love it. And again, Leanne, thank you for the question. If you would like to be featured on one of our upcoming episodes of the Mind Your Business podcast, all you got to do is head over to www.mindyourbusinesspodcast.com and you could submit your question that could just get answered by Phoebe and I on the show. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access, absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.